This podcast is brought to you by Live Atom. Live Atom helps businesses grow online by generating more leads. You can learn more by heading to their website at liveatom.com. That's liveatom.com. I'm Amanda Leitner, and welcome to Rochester Rising, where we amplify the stories of Rochester entrepreneurs. Welcome to episode 141 of the podcast today. So today on the show, I got to sit down with Adam Helwig and Bryan Lemke, owners of Almond Eye Productions. So Almond Eye Productions is a local full production company. They do everything from field production to post-production and marketing, working in a lot of different industries. So Adam and Bryan met while working for the Outdoor Channel, and they actually were winners of the Golden Moose Awards through the Outdoor Channel. And they're both natives of Pennsylvania and moved here in the 2000s to Rochester to work for the Outdoor Channel before launching Almond Eye Productions in 2017. So on the show today, we talk about a lot of different topics, including the value of being self-taught and thinking intuitively. We talk about Almond Eye Productions and their services and offerings, local marketing trends, including the emergence of video here in Rochester and the local marketing scene. We talk about what it's like to move to the Rochester area, and we chat about the initial discussions they had when starting a business as friends and coworkers and early diversification of their business. We talk a lot about the hardships associated with entrepreneurship, including sacrifices that are made along the way and internal drive to be an entrepreneur. All right, so now on to the podcast with Bryan and Adam of Almond Eye Productions. So we're here today with Almond Eye Productions with Adam and Bryan. So thanks for being here today, guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So maybe so people know who is who when we're talking, I'll just let you guys give some brief background about yourselves.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm Adam. Brief background. So I'm actually originally from Pennsylvania, moved out here to Rochester, Minnesota in 2010 to pursue my passion, which is video editing and producing. Been here, like I said, for about going on 9 years now, and started in working for a television show. It's actually on the Outdoor Channel. It's called Driven TV. And it's funny because I graduated from Penn State with a film degree in 2008. And in 2008, that's when the economy took a big crash. And it's hard enough getting a job in the film TV world. And so I spent almost 2 years just sending applications out and just looking while working a side job that had nothing to do with, it was actually in a physical therapy clinic. But finally I got a hit for this outdoor show. And I've never hunted a day in my life. I don't know anything about it, but it was an opportunity. And those guys flew me out here. It was actually in Plainview, Minnesota. And interviewed for the day. And, they sent me their show a couple weeks in advance to review and make some notes on. And so I basically told them that their show kind of was crap and I could fix it, not having ever worked really in television production, but I, had the confidence in myself that I feel like I could do better than what they had. So they hired me and I worked for them for, 7 years, I believe. And then that's where I met Bryan. He came in, I think 2012, 2013, beginning of 2013, as a cameraman. And that's where we met and became good friends and kind of decided at the end of 2016 to branch out, start our own deal, and hit the market. So it's been great so far. We've had a lot of success so far, and just would like to continue to grow.
Yeah, so I'm Bryan Lemke, also originally from Pennsylvania. moved out here to Minnesota in, like Adam said, the beginning of 2013, working for the same outdoor show on the Outdoor Channel there. And I actually went to school in Madison, University of Wisconsin, and have a degree in biology. And, it was interesting looking at what I do now and looking at what I got my degree in, graduating with a degree in biology. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I wanted to be a dentist. There was a lot of options out there, but unlike Adam, I did grow up an outdoorsman. So I love that aspect of it. And growing up as a kid, I met a lot of people in that industry and some people that were doing a lot of filming in that industry. So I kind of gained an interest in that at a young age, really bought a camera or my parents helped me buy a camera when I was young, and just really got as much experience as I could and fell in love with it, gained a passion for it. And when I graduated college, I said, you know what, I'm going to take a step back, and before I really decide to do anything with this biology degree, I really like this filming thing. I really like the outdoors. I'm going to go and try and see if I can make a career out of it. And lo and behold, I was, presented with the opportunity to move up here and start as a cameraman working for Driven TV. And it's turned into a career for me, and I wouldn't do anything differently. I've been very fortunate to have those opportunities, and now us starting Almond Eye at the beginning of 2017 has really been great. So we're doing a lot of different things, still in the hunting and outdoor industry, but really outside of that too, in the business and corporate world and local market. So. It's been an exciting journey, and excited to see what the next few years bring.
I've had this conversation with people before, people who graduated around the time I graduated in 2007 from college, around that time where there was, very limited job opportunities. And then I went into graduate school for molecular biology. Wow. And even, when I was in there, realizing I didn't want to do that anymore or didn't know what the next step was, but there was really not that many other options, especially here, to be frankly honest. And I think, that was a reality, and it might, a little bit of that still, as far as, a science degree outside of Mayo Clinic. But yeah, we've talked about this before, if that, people in their late 20s, early 30s, now running their own businesses. And part of what I think is that, you go to college, you have this, you're told that there's something at the end of it that's worth your 4 to whatever. If you get a graduate degree, like I did, 10 years of education, and the promise is weak at the other end. So I think that was a huge spur for, entrepreneurship that we see around people in their late 20s and 30s, is that promise was not true.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like I say this, like, I feel like I could be doing what I'm doing right now without having ever gone to college.
Same.
Like, I was very self-taught in video editing, and like, I mean, I did the whole college thing and it was great, but I didn't it's sad to say, but I don't feel like I gained what, 4 years worth of, you'd think you'd gain out of it, but wouldn't change it. No, it's good. It's good to have a degree in something, but, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I think you do gain a lot of valuable tools going to college, and especially, and I think it's changing now to a point too. I do think that, there's not necessarily a status level, but, it's one of those things where, to do a lot of things, you need that college credential, what I mean? But I get the question asked to me a lot. I have a 15-month-old son. And, in dealing with people, and we do a lot of work nationwide, and people always ask me, well, if there's one piece of advice, what would you give your son? Are you going to have him go to college, or not have him, but, encourage him to go to college? And I would say yes. However, I wish something that they would teach you more growing up is to think more intuitively. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that, there's kind of a lot of false promises at the end. They try to train you to think that you're going to do this or do that, when I think really they could do a better job, or we as a whole could do a better job of kind of training to, our younger generation to think intuitively and give them that initiative to go out and do the things that they really want to do, find what they're passionate about and go do it. That's a really hard thing because, as entrepreneurs, I think we think a little differently. But on the other hand too, I just think that, that sort of thinking or mentality can be preached a little more.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it is a good maturation process too. And you learn a lot of beyond just maturing as an individual, you get, more of a well-rounded education. But I agree, I think thinking about how you apply those skill sets intuitively and constructively is the key. So I will ask you about your business now. So for people listening, what is Almond Eye Productions?
It's a full production company. We do pretty much anything, excuse me, we do pretty much anything related to production. We do, a big thing right now is aerial drone work. We get lots of requests for that. We do a lot of real estate around here, so that's been big. We actually have some contracts with the natural gas and pipeline industry throughout the nation. We work with some pretty big companies, and drones are huge there. Basically, we do photography. We do just a whole wide range of things. We have several different clients, like I said. And Bryan?
Yeah, I think we kind of do a full gamut of things when it comes to production, not only producing that content, but marketing, helping these companies market it as well. We can get into that a little later, but I think, we do a lot in the outdoor industry. We do a lot of corporate work, business promotional videos, commercials, have worked with some really big brands, nationwide on some of their promotional campaigns, like I said, in commercials. Real estate, we do a lot of real estate here locally in the Southeast market, as well, like Adam said, as the natural gas and pipeline industry. So anything really video production related from field production to the post-production aspect and editing as well. So
do you work with companies mainly in Rochester or Southeast Minnesota, or what's kind of that geography that you're focused in?
I think it's a bit of both. We do quite a bit of work here in Rochester, like especially real estate market, small businesses, and then we work with a company that's here based locally, the Deer Society and Illusion Systems, which is here locally in Rochester, but also do a lot of nationwide work too. So natural gas, that takes us all over the country. As well as some other, kind of bigger brands that we've worked with. So I'd say, it's probably a 50-50 trade-off. We do a lot of work within Rochester and a lot of work elsewhere as well.
It's like we were talking in the beginning, neither of you is from this area. So what gap did you see here in Rochester for these services, and what drove you to decide we're going to, put up our flag in Rochester and build this business here?
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, when we started, basically in the beginning of 2017, real estate, keep coming back to that. I think we've really changed the game here, in the real estate market in terms of realtors marketing their properties. We work with Lee Fleming a lot, and quite a handful of others, and just hearing their perspective on how much they value the video now. Once we've started doing it for them, they're selling houses before they even hit MLS. They're selling them. Lee just sold his last house on Instagram, and it's almost $1 million home on Pill Hill here, and he just couldn't believe it. We've got several testimonials where they'll sell the houses over asking price, several offers. Mm-hmm. Actually, my neighbor that lives right across the street from me, the previous owner put their house up for sale last year, and we actually did the video for him. And so that's pretty funny. That's right across the street. But I just talked to the new owner a couple weeks ago, and he came over, and I had mentioned that, I did the video for your house. And he's like, oh, man, He's like, I wasn't really even in the market for a house, but I saw this video and I just had to buy it. He said there were 3 other offers on the home, but I had to have it after watching that video. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. And that's just, I think, one gap that, we've kind of filled here. And there's some other smaller companies that are kind of they're doing a lot of real estate work too, in conjunction with us in terms of video. So I think it's really taken off, in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that we originally set up shop here was just because we were here already. I think, Adam's wife, Amanda, is from here, family here, and it was a convenient location for us. But, digging into it further, at the beginning of 2017 and what we really wanted to do, looking at Rochester's a booming, a place, and there's so many businesses, and it's the exciting thing about it is because of the Mayo Clinic, really, that's not going to go away. It's going to keep growing. All these businesses around here, and I can tell you one of the first people that we met with when we started was Bucky Beeman, and Bucky is a guy that is full of big ideas. He's a visionary almost, and that was really exciting and really helped us from the beginning because he presented this idea that to think bigger picture, than just okay, we can produce a video for this market down the road and that's it. He introduced us to a lot of people within the community, and that's the thing I think. And you're seeing more videos pop up, more video production companies in Rochester, and I think one of the gaps that needs to be filled and is being filled right now is the use of video marketing, and not just video marketing, regular content as well as higher production value, content. So that was, I think. Another reason that we really have been successful here is because there are so many businesses and they're eager to grow, and us being able to bring them a higher production value has really been great.
So I'll ask you guys, since we're all kind of originally from Western or West Central Pennsylvania, what were your thoughts when you came here through Madison? So you got acclimated to the Midwest. I had culture shock. What were your thoughts? I mean, it's beautiful, like when you come in through the bluff country, but I was like, where are the trees and hills? And so what was your like acclimation to the Midwest and Rochester like?
Moving to Plainview, it's a town of maybe 3,000 people, very much smaller than what I was used to. So that was a bit of a shock. People obviously are super nice here. I was so focused and so excited at the time that I almost had tunnel vision as far as, I just wanted to get to work. Rochester was pretty similar to what I'm used to back home in Pennsylvania. So that was nice. That was only, 20 minutes away. So it's nice to kind of take a break from Plainview and get into Rochester a little bit. But I mean, I don't know, not so much culture shock. Like I said, I just kind of was focused on my work more than anything and acclimated pretty good. It was a pretty easy transition for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, I think, had some culture shock. I think the biggest thing for me in Rochester was seeing and experiencing all the different, frankly, cultures that are here, all the different people, all the different mindsets and mentalities that are here. And I think, that was, I won't say a negative thing for me. At first, it was just kind of a shocking thing, like I had never experienced, all these different people, really from around the world, kind of all in one place. So I think that has turned into a really great thing and a really positive thing, getting to work with so many different people and seeing so many different backgrounds and aspects here in Rochester. As far as, the city, I think it's pretty similar. I spent a lot of time around Pittsburgh. As much as it's so much different than Pittsburgh, I wasn't so shocked by the city atmosphere at all. But like I said, I think that culture shock turned into something that's valuable and I think is pretty cool now.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I miss from Pittsburgh is just the different foods. And it's just not that those cultures aren't really, here. Like I came from a big Italian family and we have Pasquales now, but before that we had I couldn't even get olives here. So we always, whenever I go home, I go to the strip district and stock up on olives and, seal them and bring them out here somehow. But I do agree with you on the, the level of politeness. Like even when I go home, I'm like, I don't know that I want to go out in public. Like people are just not, they're mean sometimes, for no reason and driving. And I'm just like, nope, I'm not doing it. Someone please drive me around because it's not happening when I go home. That was the biggest thing for me. But yeah, I think, there are different opportunities here. And I agree. There's a very diverse culture here. So you both met working through Driven TV and, knew each other. But what was the conversation like when you're like, hey, we have skill sets to complement each other. Let's start a business. So what did that look like?
I mean, it was scary, to be honest. Taking that step and deciding that's what we were going to do, starting a business. I think we knew we had worked together for, quite a few years and our skill sets are different. I do a lot of the field production. Adam does a lot of the filming too, but, I kind of, my niche is being out in the field and filming, and his real niche is post-production and doing the editing. So we knew that our skill sets complemented each other very well, but starting a business, that was a whole different ball game. And to be honest with you, when we left, our previous employer, what we had done for those years was strictly in the outdoor industry. Mm-hmm. We hadn't done anything outside of that. Now we saw a lot of potential outside of that, but we had never done anything. Our credentials were in the outdoor industry. Now with that show, we won lots of awards, Golden Moose Awards, which are kind of equivalent to like an Emmy in the outdoor network. So we had a lot of connections and credentials there, but in leaving, we had a 1-year no compete, so we couldn't do anything in the outdoor industry at all.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now that was, like I said, scary, but it was a blessing in disguise. It's the best thing that could have ever happened for us starting a business because we were able to focus on things outside of the outdoor industry. We were really able to diversify. And now I would say the majority of the things we do are not even in that industry. They're more business directed. So I think that was really great. But it was, at the beginning, it was tough. We spent a lot of time, we just talked about that on the way up here driving in. We spent a lot of time just walking the streets and going into local businesses and trying to talk to them. Fortunately for us, video marketing, and I think Rochester is even behind the times a little bit, in video marketing or marketing in general, when you look at, places in California and different parts of the world. But, it's something that everybody can use. So that was great for us, but it was a struggle to find clients at first, because we didn't have a lot to show them. We didn't have, this whole background of, other promotions that we did for local businesses or things like that. Now that we've gained a portfolio and worked with, several people around the community, it's a lot easier, but definitely scary to start with.
Very much so. Yeah. We got kind of trapped in a bubble there in the outdoor industry, and having that 1-year no compete really forced us to, like Bryan said, diversify, and blessing in disguise.
I think from the beginning, when you really need to take a step back, and that's hard to do, especially when you're forced. I mean, we both have young families, and when you make a move and decide to start your own business, I mean that is a leap in itself. And you live, paycheck to paycheck, and you try to figure out, is this thing going to work? Is it not going to work? And you almost question yourself and doubt yourself the whole time. And I think that's one reason why a lot of people don't go into business for themselves and don't become entrepreneurs, because they're so scared to take that leap. And there are sacrifices on the front end. It's not easy. But I really believe if you take your step back, and it may take, going away and taking 3 days and locking yourself in a room or whatever it is, but thinking, about how your skill set or how your passion can really benefit somebody else or benefit, the people around you, then eventually you're going to be successful. I think, and that's what we really focused on too, I think, is how can we help these people? It's not, how can we just, we could make a dollar or make a living doing anything. But at least for me, I approached it with how can we really help these people? And I think that helping them with video promote their business, that's what made us successful. Making other people successful makes you successful, I think.
Yeah, and I think like you were saying, getting that first client is the scariest and hardest part because it is the chicken and the egg. You have no, beyond what you did with the outdoor network, you don't have your own personal portfolio to show them. So that's the scary part. You don't want to do things for free, but you might have to get your first test client. And I think that's definitely the scariest part. Like you said, there's no guarantee that money comes in, and when it comes in, that someone actually pays you, and learning how to navigate all that really fun stuff. Because there's nothing worse than not getting paid when you've done something too.
Yes, absolutely. Right.
So before starting Almond Eye, do you feel like did you ever think you'd be an entrepreneur or that you'd be running your own business? Or is it kind of a shock that you're doing this? And then as you're doing this, how did you learn how to run a business?
So I actually started Almond Eye in 2013 because at the time, Bryan was pretty new at Driven. But at the time, I felt like I had hit a plateau there in terms of salary and kind of was working super long hours. And so I decided in my head to make the leap and start a business. And then, they came in with a nice offer to stay, and I did for several more years. And I think that was good, to really play it slow and really think about it for those couple years. I had always wanted to do that. I like calling my own shots. I don't like answering to people so much. And so, for me, like I said, I'd always wanted to do it deep down. I knew I could. It's just that taking that step. And, we kind of got an opportunity there at the end of 2016 to take that step. And I think we both were in the same places. As far as, we kind of saw the writing on the wall, with just kind of being at a certain set plateau, and there's no real breaking through anywhere with where we were. So we knew that by starting our own business and doing that we could really, the potential for growth was so much more than where we were at.
Yeah. I think for me, it was a case of I didn't really know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur or I wanted to own my own business. It was always a thought in the back of my head, but I didn't know what that looked like. Mm-hmm. I honestly had no idea, and I went through those, years before starting Almond Eye, not really knowing or having a end goal in sight. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until we took the leap in 2017 and started Almond Eye, that I think those things that I was thinking just kind of pushed in the back of my brain really took over. I have found that I really like the business end of things a whole lot more. I was so focused on just the production before, because that's what I loved and that's what I thought I was good at. I've found that I really like the business side of things. Now there's obviously tough parts of owning your own business and the business side of things, like you mentioned before, but I really like that. And my brain I've noticed that it thinks differently. It works differently now owning a business. It's not just like, okay, let's, in our case, produce a video and hand it out. Now it's, okay, let's produce this video. Let's try to work with this company on how to use that video, to market it correctly and provides more value. So I think there's a lot more things that go into it. And I think, to answer your question, it didn't really click for me until we made that leap. But I think it clicks really fast. And once you kind of have that aha moment, it really helps you settle yourself too. And you kind of come into your own.
Yeah. I think in the beginning too, it's hard to know that you actually can do this. People think you need a business degree, you need an MBA, and that's not really true. I mean, does it help? I'm sure it does, but there's great podcasts and great books out there and people, more than anything.
Yes.
Things that you learn from other people are invaluable.
Absolutely.
So Almond Eye has been around for 3 years, more than 3 years, it sounds like maybe.
Yeah, I would say functioning for 3 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the 3 years is when, you kind of have a pretty good feel on things. I think you can make it to, if you make it past a year, you're doing okay. I think if you make it to 2, you are really doing okay, but I think you can still, string things out, if you can financially. But once you get to 3 years, then, it's pretty serious. You have, your stuff in line, your path. It's no longer a startup. It's a business. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, and you talked about some of it, but, were there some challenging moments over these 3 years getting to this point where you thought, this is not worth it. Like you said, you have families, what did some of those moments look like? And then how do you kind of move through that?
Yeah, there were a few moments like that. Definitely when we first started, obviously it's middle of winter, 2017, right at the beginning of 2017. So reaching out, I don't know, a lot of people don't really want to do a whole lot during the winter.
In winter, everyone hibernates.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So reaching out, we didn't have a whole lot of success, to be honest, for the first couple months. And it was kind of that, oh crap moment. Like, did we...
And this is after you left your jobs.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So it was really, evaluating our strategy and actually got an in with the oil and gas pipeline industry, and that really kind of around the March timeframe, and started doing some work for them. And man, that was huge, and formed a great relationship with those guys, and that kind of splintered off into another oil and gas pipeline company, and it kind of took off from there. So that was great for that, first initial year. And then we hit the winter again, and I remember basically a year later, 2018, beginning of the year, same thing. Like we had nothing coming in, and it was like scary again, because kind of you got higher costs now. You invested in some equipment, and you're just like, oh man. But that maybe lasted for a month or two, and then like I said, it kind of got through that. But I think what was really kind of put everything in perspective was that first year doing taxes, and the tax guy saying, well, I was like, well, here's what we made, and he's like, oh, well, that's great. Normally businesses for the first 2 years, they report losses. I'm like, oh, well, okay, well then we're doing pretty good then. Like it's not so bad. And then, since spring of 2018, we've just been solid, like pretty much
awesome.
Word of mouth, and it just kind of, we're at a point now where it's really good.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things that I can remember thinking this, during a few of those hard months, you try so hard, and it's like the worse it gets, the harder you try. And it's almost like I relate it to trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And it seems like the harder you try, it gets worse. And, again, I think sometimes you just need to step back and really evaluate. And that's what we did. And we reevaluated, our offer. We reevaluated how we marketed things, and how we were presenting what we could offer to these people. And it paid off. It worked. There were definitely some challenging months. I can remember them distinctly. But we've learned to plan better. I remember walking into Adam's editing studio there, and we have a big whiteboard in there, and you have months where it's full, and there will be 3 months of work, and obviously Adam's stressed and I'm stressed, and we have so much work to do. And then you walk in there 3 months later, and it's like, there's one thing on that whiteboard, and then that gets scary again because you don't have that work lined up, and I don't know if it is a winter thing. It seems that we laugh about it, but it's true. So I don't know. I guess to get past those times, you really. I don't know what the right answer is, but you plan for it. You think into the future, and you try to. I guess have as much work lined up as you can, and once you get to a point where you have those clients lined up, and you're doing things that you can show value to other potential clients, then it kind of rolls in. It seems like sometimes, especially when you're starting, everything rolls in at once. Sometimes when you're not trying, and the harder you try, and the harder you get tunnel vision in those things, then you even make it more difficult on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there'll literally be days. It's just like it's so weird, like. On a certain day, for whatever reason, you'll get 5-6 emails of people wanting to do work. It's like, holy crap, like there's so
right.
much, like, and then you feel overwhelmed, like, oh, but it's awesome. Like when those days happen, it's challenging, but it's rewarding,
Yeah, and I guess at this point you have, and things always change, but you have a better idea of kind of the flow, and maybe when there will be down times, and then that makes the times where you are super stressed, then well, we just got to push through it because whatever, December is going to be, rough. And as we've learned, even doing events and things, like, it's not even worth trying after Halloween, to be honest, until after New Year's, because it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Like everyone's... Even with like Rochester Rising, typically I don't put anything out in December because it's just, it's not worth my time, or nobody's reading it, and, use that time to bank interviews because it's really hard to get people to give an hour of their time to sit down over the holidays. So just getting ready for New Year's. But yeah, I think your strategies are very kind of insightful, because I think a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, because we can work as much as we want, we think more hours equals more money, but it's strategic hours. It's not like,
absolutely. You
certainly need to work hard, but working hard does not mean working, 70 hours a week doing things that don't make sense.
And we're both fairly new fathers.
Right.
I have an 18-month-old. He has a 15-month-old, and gosh, that really puts things into perspective with your time and time management. And I used to be like night owl for, I would stay up all night really. And now it's like I'm up at 6 a.m. because the kiddo's up, and
yeah.
I've definitely become a morning person now, which is, I kind of like it.
My last question for you guys is, you're in the branding and marketing space in Rochester. So what's your take on kind of that industry in the city right now and where it's going?
Yeah. Again, I'll kind of touch on that. I think Rochester is kind of, from what I've seen, catching up. Compared to a lot of different places around the country from that side of things. But I think catching up very quickly. Like I said, you're starting to see, just on social media alone, way more video content, way more regular everyday marketing coming out of a lot of the companies around here. So I think that's really great because I do believe in the value of it. How is that changing? I can use the real estate market as an example. So the real estate market, video, and I do think Adam's right. I think we have really pushed the forefront of video marketing in the real estate industry here in Southeast Minnesota over the last 2 years. Now you're seeing more and more and more video. How do you separate yourself? Well, I think it's as we see more content flowing every day, I think that regular content's important, but I think higher quality content is what's going to separate a lot of these people. And I think, it's a scary thing for a business owner too. They look at it and say, well, why am I going to spend that money, on quality production, that when, because video is not necessarily cheap. But, in the long run, I think, if they can understand, show whatever they do in the best light and understand how to use it as a tool and not just a showpiece, I think that's how you separate yourself with kind of that higher quality. And I think it's coming. Like I said, you're seeing more and more of it here in Rochester, and I think it's just going to keep growing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some people get hung up on the length of videos and like, well, it has to be 15 seconds. It's got to be 30 seconds for social. And I agree, there's obviously a lot of good use for that, but I would say don't discount longer form stuff too. If it's produced well and it's, high quality content, that's some of the most powerful things that you can release in terms of, I like to do a lot more kind of documentary, story driven, kind of emotional pieces. And I think those offer so much value for a company to tell their story and not have it in 15-second quick, Instagram video where, they can really see a lot of benefit out of those, 5 to 10 minute sort of videos.
Yeah, I think if you're interested enough, you'll certainly watch it. And if not, you'll watch the first 30 seconds and then move on. But yeah, there are certainly, I agree, like that, I think does set businesses apart when you can tell your authentic story to those people to connect with them. Absolutely. So yeah, completely agree. All right, well, I'll wrap up by asking you for any final thoughts and let everyone know where they can learn more about Almond Eye Productions and get in touch with you.
Yeah, so you can get in touch with us. We have a website. It's almondeye.net. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram, Almond Eye Productions. We're pretty active on there, so shoot us a message. I guess any final thoughts? If you're thinking about doing video, I would obviously definitely recommend it. It can be a scary thing up front, but especially with the way the world is and social media, there's so many avenues out there to tell your story and deliver a message specifically targeted to your audience. I think it's a really great tool. And, if you're thinking about jumping in as an entrepreneur or starting your own business, it can be scary, but you can do it. It's one of those things where if you have a passion and you find out how to help somebody and bring value to the people around you, you can be successful.
Absolutely great message. And I'll throw one final thing in here. We talked at the beginning of this year on bringing on somebody else because we're growing. So if there's any local video editors out there that would like to maybe help out, give us a shout and maybe we can work something out. That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking time to come down and be on the show today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks to Adam and Bryan for being on the show today. You can find more about them by heading to their website at almondeye.net, or you can find them on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find those links in our show notes. So if you liked this story, you can head to our website at rochesterrising.org for more stories and podcasts about entrepreneurship here in Rochester. So you can also find us on Apple Music or wherever you consume your podcast content. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, so you can check us out there. And we're always looking for nominations or suggestions of great Rochester-based entrepreneurs for the podcast. So if you have an entrepreneur that has a great story to tell, send us an email and let us know at rochesterrising@gmail.com. That's a wrap for the podcast today. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you consume your audio content to never miss a story of entrepreneurship and innovation coming out of Rochester, Minnesota. We'll be back again next week with a brand new story.